Bienvenue à tous et à toutes. C'est avec plaisir que nous accueillons aujourd'hui Sjarel Ex, ancien directeur du Musée Boijmans Van Beuningen à Rotterdam, dans le cadre des grandes conférences du partenariat des nouveaux usages des collections dans les musées d'art. Cette conférence est organisée avec le Musée d'art contemporain de Montréal et je céderai très bientôt la parole à François Letourneux, conservateur et responsable de l'action culturelle au Musée d'art contemporain de Montréal. Le groupe de recherche et de réflexion CIECO reconnaît que les trois universités québécoises à l'origine de sa création, soit l'Université de Montréal, l'Université du Québec à Montréal et l'Université du Québec en Outaouais, sont situées sur des territoires autochtones non cédés et habités à travers le temps par plusieurs nations autochtones. Il est par conséquent de notre devoir de contribuer à la prise de conscience de cet historique de colonialisme et de favoriser le respect des savoirs et des cultures autochtones. Mon nom est Marie Fraser, je suis professeure au département d'histoire de l'art et au programme de muséologie à l'UQAM, ainsi que titulaire de la chaire de recherche en études et pratiques curatoriales. Pour ceux et celles qui se connectent pour la première fois aux activités de CIECO, le Partenariat des nouveaux usages des collections dans les musées d'art est financé principalement par le Conseil de recherche en sciences humaines du Canada. Il regroupe plus d'une vingtaine de chercheurs, de professionnels des musées, de stagiaires postdoctoraux et une communauté de plus en plus importante d'étudiants et d'étudiantes, de même que 6 musées partenaires, dont le Musée d'art contemporain de Montréal, des organismes culturels et communautaires. Notre recherche se structure autour de la vie de l'objet de collection et cette année est consacrée à la documentation et à la restauration, ce qui constitue 2 étapes fondamentales pour prendre soin de l'œuvre d'art au moment de son entrée au musée suite à son acquisition. Le projet Dépôt que Sjarel Ex a mené au Musée Boijmans, comme vous pourrez l'entendre, représente un exemple absolument extraordinaire pour exposer ces étapes qui se déroulent normalement dans l'arrière-scène du musée. Le reste de la présentation et la conférence de Sjarel se dérouleront en anglais. La conférence sera suivie d'une période de questions et de discussions. Et sans plus tarder, j'aimerais céder la parole à François Letourneux.
Merci Marie, bonjour à toutes et à tous. J'aimerais commencer par remercier nos partenaires du CIECO, plus particulièrement Marie Fraser et José Desforges, avec qui j'ai eu le plaisir de collaborer pour l'organisation de cet événement. Nous sommes ravis de présenter aujourd'hui cette grande conférence de l'axe 1 du projet CIECO, qui, comme vous le savez, a pour particularité assez inédite de développer à grande échelle les échanges entre chercheurs universitaires et professionnels des musées. Il arrive parfois que ces échanges soient rendus accessibles au grand public, comme c'est le cas aujourd'hui. C'est une approche particulièrement intéressante à laquelle nous sommes heureux de participer. Merci à toutes et à tous donc de votre présence. Most importantly, we'd like to thank you warmly, Sjarel, for accepting our invitation to speak today about Depot, this wonderful project to which you dedicated many years of your life. The unique story of Depot speaks directly to this year's CIECO theme of documentation and restoration as a new institutional model that recasts many ideas around museum protocols, the contours of storage and exhibition space, artwork as artifact or document, the reenactment of curatorial models, and broader issues of public accessibility and transparency. A wonderful book on Depot came out in 2021, edited by Sandra Kisters, who is head of collections and Depot at the Boijmans, in which she revisits the concept of the open Depot form. I'm sure many of you would be interested in reading the book, which includes many great contributions by others as well. José, si tu veux bien mettre le lien dans le chat. Merci. There is also a documentary film on Depot, which Sjarel can perhaps tell us more about later on, perhaps. Of course, Depot opened in the context of the Boijmans transformation project, which started in 2019 and is expected to unfold over the next 3 or 4 years now, I believe 7 years in total. For us at the MAC, an institution that is itself on the brink of a major transformation and faces its own challenges pertaining to the storage and movement of collections, Depot also serves as a source of inspiration and an occasion to reflect on some of the most promising ideas and practices in museum culture today. So thanks again, Sjarel, for being with us. I'll quickly introduce you now and then hand it over. So Sjarel Ex was born in 1957 studied art history in Utrecht and became a specialist in the field of the Dutch avant-garde and the connections between the style movement and the international avant-garde, the German Bauhaus in particular. As a freelance art historian, Ex initially organized museum shows and site-specific exhibitions in public spaces, among which Century 87 in the inner city of Amsterdam, with artists like Namjoon Paik, James Lee Byers, and Marlene Dumas. Night Lines in 91 in the inner city of Utrecht, visible from sunset to sunrise, with contributions by Jenny Holzer, Alan Rupersberg, and others. And Panorama 2000 in 1999, a show that was visible from the 110 meters dome tower of the Utrecht Cathedral, with Oliver Lyson, Pippelotti Rist, Roman Seiner, Karsten Höller, and others. Ex also curated exhibitions on an international level and has published in numerous newspapers, magazines, and catalogs over the years. Appointed in 1988 as general director in the Centraal Museum Utrecht, Ex was responsible for over 300 exhibitions, from Utrecht Caravagism to contemporary art, design, and fashion. The museum was refurbished and developed a new storage for its encyclopedic collection. So already Chaire was involved with forms of Depot before moving on. In 2004, he started as general director in Musée Boijmans Van Beuningen, known for its collections, exhibitions, education, and research. The collection grew extensively, and a program with traveling exhibitions and a range of extramural activities was created. For the 151,000 artworks in the collection, Ex initiated an accessible and transparent depot, highlighting conservation, education, and museum practices. Discussions started in 2004, if I remember correctly from our previous discussion. Depot Boijmans Van Beuningen opened in November 2021, garnering considerable critical and public success, with many museums following suit globally. Ex left Rotterdam in September 2022 and continues his career as a freelance curator, writer, and advisor. Ina Klassen, who had been hired to co-direct the institution in 2019, is the current director of Boijmans Van Beuningen. So Chaire will speak for 45 minutes approximately, as Marie has mentioned, after which there will be a 15 to 30 minutes Q&A. And please feel free to ask your questions in both languages. Sjarel, again, we are immensely pleased to welcome you today. The floor is yours.
Thank you, François. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marie, for the nice introduction. Can I please have, let's say, the first slide? Talking about the depot is, of course, a great pleasure for me, because I was involved so long, since 2004, to develop it. Maybe the next slide. It is very easy now to talk about it, but when we started in 2004, can I have the next slide, Jose? When I started in 2004, it was not known and not sure what would come out of the process. It was intuitive, and it was flexible in many ways. Important to understand what we have been doing is that you look back very briefly in our history. This is the first Museum Boijmans Van Beuningen, founded in 1849 in the city of Rotterdam. Mr. Boijmans, a collector, offered the city his collection of Western art. It was an international collection, paintings, prints, and drawings. Can I have the next slide, please? Mr. Boijmans lived before photography, so you see his portrait here. He is one of the most important patrons of the museum, and the other one, Mr. Van Beuningen, is now also in view. He was he had a flourishing company and was a great patron. When he passed away in 1958, his family decided, also for tax reasons, to donate his collection to the municipality of Rotterdam. Both are an example. And it's not the correct figure because we are still counting. At this moment, around and about 1,750 collectors donated over 50,000 artworks to the collection, very often of an international kind. So it's a wonderful museum, more even than any Dutch museum, made out of gifts by patrons. Please, the next slide. This is the building that was built in 1935 in a very flourishing time in the interbellum, between the world wars. This museum, when it opened, was a hit in an international perspective, as far as we can tell about it, because I was not there. It was built by the 7th director of the Boijmans. I was the 13th. It was especially renowned for its light, daylight and artificial light, and also for its great innovative machinery. The climate was very good. The stability of the building was wonderful. It was really a kind of treasury of the city. Next slide, please. And in 72, there was an enlargement of the museum. You see it on the left-hand side. This is not a drawing, but a photo, but very whitish. In this enlargement of the architect Baudon, we had something that was not possible in the elder museum. There was a depot with 5 vaults in the cellar. The museum by Van der Steur had a lot of charm and has a lot of charm, but there were 2 things that you could see as a small deficit. It was so big that people didn't think it was necessary to have a depot. That was a kind of decision that is still, that we can still feel now in the development of the museum. And the second thing is, maybe the next slide, that the material that was used to do all the machinery and the humidity was made of asbestos. And that was, in 1935, a very good, new, innovative material. But later we learned that this is in fact not the kind of walls that you need, and especially not in the numbers and quantity that was used. This is a view in the museum. You see the eclectic character of the collection quite well. The young guys, they walk next to a Picasso. You see at your left-hand side up, you see a Segal. You see a horse by Cornelis Potter. You see a Feininger. This is one of the first rehearsals in which we in the museum already started to think about what can we do with exhibitions in which all centuries and also all disciplines are combined. And what does the public feel if you show your variation, and if you work with a collection of so many signatures at so many times and periods? What is exactly the message that you can bring? So what kind of themes can you work out? Next slide, please. Another room, Eileen Agar, one of the beautiful second generation surrealists from England. This is the last view of the museum that you will have in its flourishing state. You see we work with colors. You see really the daylight. You see a Mondrian and a Van Dene painting. It was 60 rooms of such pleasure and aesthetic feeling. Next, please. But we had, like Francois told, to move out of the museum, which was quite devastating. Next, please. Because this is the way it looks now. It's so here you see that the very innovative asbestos was taken out. It's the first time I saw it, I was really crying because I did not recognize anything in the museum, but the daylight was still beautiful. Next, please. And there was a second problem, the climate change. Rotterdam is a very warm city. It sounds strange, but we have 5 refineries. And each time that the North Sea brings clouds, the first rains, they come down in Rotterdam. And it's since 99 really coming up. It's unbelievable what kind of moussons, what kind of enormous rains we have in the city. They come mostly in the summer, twice. And each time that it happened, the fire brigade had to come in to rescue the collection, because the collection, over 25,000 pieces, the best ones, were in the cellar of the Baudon. Next, please. And this is the first time you see a younger version of myself in 2005, that I got a phone call at home in Rotterdam. Mr. X, could you come and help us? Because water is everywhere and you have to see this, but because this is our secret that we did not tell you when you had your interview. Next, please. So this made it very easy to think about a depot, a new tool. I went to the municipality because they own parts of the collection and they own also the building. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but I have to tell you about this. There's two ways to solve it. You should invest. We can do a new depot in the outskirts of town. Think about a kind of Fort Knox. We do a gate and we do a canal and we will do security. And I guarantee the director, the curators, our colleagues will have lots of fun in that depot. It's an investment of probably 30 million euros. Of course, I had some information about it, but I feel at the same time, and that was my intuition, that it could be possible to do a depot also in the city center and to combine the heritage with audience. The next, please. And that was, in fact, a kind of good guess because of building two depots. I saw how the enthusiasm was of visitors who came to these depots in Utrecht. And some of the reasons to build this, so the presuppositions and also conclusions was, and that was very easy, why do we show just 7% in the museum? All encyclopedic museums have 93% in storage. Wouldn't it be also interesting for audience to see what we do? Because 50% of all people that work in a museum, like an encyclopedic museum, work behind the screen, work in the conservation process, and they are very skilled. They do interesting jobs. They have enormous knowledge, but we do not tell about it, and people who visit us do not understand that a part of the job is that you keep heritage in a good condition. Curiosity is, of course, next please, is of course very important. And in this, next please, and in this, no, sorry, it was 3. It's okay. What was also important in the text that you just saw, the third one, is that we decided that if a depot would be done, it would be also necessary to think about the collectors in our surrounding, because the 1750, there's still 30 alive that phone us when they see a nice picture in a fair, or phone us when they need an advice. So we thought if we do a new premises for ourselves, it could also be interesting for collectors to contribute and maybe to come on board. So next, please. Talking about such reasons was not enough to convince the city or the neighbors or whatever, but of course we managed to find a good architect. We had an international competition in which 47 big bureaus and combinations applied, and we found Winnie Maas in Rotterdam. So he was close by. He knew the situation very well, and he got the most points. I was not in a jury, but I was very glad that he was elected. And next, please. Winnie Maas is with Rem Koolhaas, one of the most important architects in the Netherlands and in the world. He has over 300 people working for him in 3 continents. And this is Winnie with 2 of his colleagues thinking about what can we do after receiving the program of requirements that the museum has written. You see a yellowish drawing on the photo. That is done by Winnie himself. Maybe he wants to give us a signal, I don't know. The next, please. So this is the, and the next, please. So you can see in a way that that this program is made, with all the things that we did not have in the museum. So this is in fact that what you need to have a building that can care completely for the collection. You could say it's how to turn a backlog into a headstand. Next, please. And here you see the private collectors. And next, please. So this was, in fact, the first design that was made. Just to give you an impression, the skin of the building is a mirror, a complete mirror. Very nice and very beautiful. and you see 5 stories of collection compartments. The ground floor is divided into a logistic area and an area for audience, and the top has a restaurant and a garden. Next, please. This is a blurry one, but I just show it to you because the atrium that you will see in a lot of photos in the next minutes is rather small. It's just 21 meters by 6 meters. And then you have also the sideboards. The entire building is connected through the atrium. So the atrium has transparencies. It has, of course, doors to all compartments. It's a kind of village of 5 layers that is very social, very you can communicate very easily in the depot. But what you see is 15,000 square meters of space, and the spaces are 6 meters high. And so it's 3 soccer fields to give you a feeling about the size of the depot. Next, please. What is the function of the depot when you have such a beautiful museum that you cherish? You heard me speaking some love letters to the museum that is now closed. And we decided that the depot is the standing leg. So that's where you do the things that you do on a daily basis without making exhibitions. The play leg is, of course, the museum, where you do the openings, where you do the new shows, where you show the combination of things, etc. And we promised ourselves that the two would function together. And so we tried to do the renovation of the museum at the same time as that we were building the depot. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to do that. But this is more or less the relation between the two. We think they can do a wonderful job in the museum park when they are both open. Next, please. There was, of course, a lobby. We went through the city with this beautiful old bicycle. That's the kind of bicycle that students move their home with in the Netherlands. It went everywhere. It worked very well. Next, please. And important was, we did not know if people could be interested in oddly interesting things like registrations. I mean, I tell you now that this was a good plan, but we did not know in advance. And at a certain moment, we found a 5,000 pieces big collection. Sorry, that I said we found. We knew about it, but we did not know what was in it. And 6 of my colleagues, 2 visible, but the other 4 with names and all and the functions are depicted on the wall, started in the rooms in the museum, started a registration process of all the pieces in this collection, which was unbelievable because lace and silk come from regions, comes from cities, it comes from families, and we had 2 professors in silk and lace in the room. They came very often, and they could give the information that was necessary for the registration. But of course, all people that were in the museum, they were informed and they were also welcome to ask questions and to etc. This was a very nice experience because we found out also on the web that in the Netherlands, more or less 25,000 people were interested in lace and silk. We did not know them. They didn't know our collection. But the moment that we started to work in the open, they found our museum as a kind of club, a club of a part of the heritage that was unknown, like many parts of heritage are unknown. Important. Next, please. And this looks very crazy as well. In lazy Saturday afternoons, we tend to have once a month a kind of gathering. The director was speaking about his plans at new acquisitions. 30 people came to listen to me and they were very enthusiastic when I finished. The curator, mostly Friso Lammertse for old master paintings, he was having 60 listeners because he was telling about his next exhibition. He's one of the best speakers of the museum. And the technicians, they asked me, can we do a lecture about how we do crates? So what is a crate? What is necessary? Does it give, what happens in case of an accident? What is the flight direction? So they, next please, they went they had in the same Saturday sessions, each time over 300 listeners, and they stayed all day. So people just wanted to know what a flight crate was and what was in the crate and why. And this made us also aware that when we closed, we could go with a crate. Here you see the Tower of Babel. It was not a real work. This was a copy, but a very genuine copy. We went to schools, and the children really liked to see that crate and to know why it was necessary, but also what was the content. Why do we protect art? What is the feeling about such a work? What can the work stand? It sounds very crazy, but it was for us a kind of investigation how the daily work could raise interest in the audience, and the feelings were positive. So we went on. Next, please. The building started. Next, please. It's 17, and then 18. You see it rises. It's 80 meters from the museum, so really nearby. Next, please. The next, please. There was a moment in 18 and 19 that people started to phone me, Mr. X, is it that big? Is it really such a big building? So the neighbors were not so very fond of it from the beginning. We had court cases and lots of trouble. But the moment that you see here, so the first mirrors were attached, the moment that the museum became a Fata Morgana, it was more or less invisible, people made a twist and they started to like it. And everybody liked it. We had at the same time, so we were talking about an idea, but we had an idea. We had no money, we had no place to build it, we had no constructor, we had no architect. But the moment that this started to happen, the capital campaign went very well. And so we were earning money because of people believing in a plan that we talked about. And that was crazy, but very nice. Next, please. And this is more or less the final thing that we did with the roof. You see the trees are not there, but this was the crane to put them up. Next, please. First opening in the midst of COVID in 2020. We called it the dusty opening because the constructor had just finished the job, or more or less finished the job. The building was still very dusty, and we got a permission to do an opening. 8,000 people walked through the building in 36 hours. They had helmets and heavy shoes. It was really a kind of performance. It was very nice. But what we were also able to do was the first press conference. So we had from China, from everywhere, we had lots of teams, also by Zoom, 120 journalists. Next, please. And they had a great job and they liked it a lot. And don't believe it, it was an attendance of 3.3 billion people all over the world that found in newsreels, in newspapers and everywhere. Yes, something like this. The Financial Times wrote, I just quote, "This is the future, just get used to it." And that was in 3,300 newspapers and other media, the message. Next, please. You've seen quite a lot of the outside of the building because of the capital campaign and also because of gathering more plans and ideas. We made contact with Marieke van Diemen and we asked her, and Winnie Maas was completely comfortable with it, if she could complicate the presentation with 13 vitrines that should be made from glass. We did not even know if glass can float. We didn't know, but maybe it was possible to do it. Next, please. And these vitrines are now really a wonderful extra in the depot. You see a photo, the moment that you walk there, your eyes look in another way than a lens of a photo camera. But these vitrines give you many, many possibilities. You see in the middle, you see Eva by Rodin. It will return in the presentation. You also see now, this is more or less midship. You see how the gallery left down works. That's a gallery of 300 square meters. There's another one. You see where the lady is walking with this beautiful dress. I don't know why she's dressed so beautiful, but there's a gallery too. We have a gallery of 1,100 meters. All the functions come together and work together. It's like an organism. Next, please. Another commission, also in collaboration, was given to John Kermeling, an architect and a wonderful artist living in the Netherlands. Because of the press campaign, it was such an enormous number. We thought in the beginning maybe 100,000 people per year will come, and but we knew that the capacity of the project could be enlarged. We saw in a kind of model that we made with the University of Rotterdam, the Erasmus University, that it would be too crowded to have many people in the building. We made an estimate that 275,000 visitors a year would be the maximum. But there was one point that did not feel well. This was a red zone. The entire main hall had not the capacity to swallow all these people. So Jean Kermeling made this extra balcony, could not be attached to the building. So it was a very brave kind of extra architecture that can carry 400 people at the same time. And so we had to do something with the mass that was trying or planning to go to Rotterdam. Next, please. And one of the most nice parts was that we had the opportunity, and so I can advise each museum to build a new depot for people or just for curators and directors. But moving the collection was really one of the biggest surprises that we could think about. So it means that you see every work, you can do new photos, new registration, you can give all the care that you need. You can even check if everything is there, because sometimes you really don't know. We came from 5 depots shattered over the Netherlands and Belgium, and we found new methods to take the works in a good shape to the new depot. And what we did too, and that took 3 years, that was planning what kind of system, so what kind of order the new depot would have. We have 13 compartments for ourselves. There is a lot of space, but how do you do that as efficient as possible for paperwork, for sculpture, for bigger paintings, smaller paintings, etc. In 5 climates, it was a kind of puzzle in the puzzle in the puzzle. Next, please. Great moment. And then you see that we have, so this is for color photography, a very cold, I think this is 14 Celsius, very cold depot. Next, please. This is also a blurry photo. I made it myself, you can see it, but I show it to you just to pinpoint that the form of the building also gave possibilities for tailor-made racks. And so this was really designed in a very efficient way so that we can have 2,000 paintings just only in this compartment. Next, please. One of the things in the depot is that we have the most popular works. Maurizio Cattelan did a beautiful permanent work in the museum. You can still see it. It was Mr. Boijmans looking through a hole. It was a burglar, of course, looking through a hole. And we thought, we cannot leave him there. He should return. But how nice would it be to show the entire sculpture? So we came in contact with his studio and with Maurizio Cattelan. And we said, so we would very much like to show the sculpture, but then entirely. So also his body, but also the stack of corrugated cupboards and catalogs. So, this was a kind of performance. It was made really in lifetime. He had to cover 6 meters. And in the moment that it was installed, this is a story that the people told me, they took out pallets and furniture and everything that they could find in the office to give it the right height. And we were able now to put it here. And Maurizio Cattelan made one condition: after reopening the museum, it should return. And of course, we said immediately yes. And so we can show it. So this is an artwork that will stay. Next, please. This is a kind of homage to Sakis, an artist that is collected by many museums, or by 2 museums in the Netherlands. But here we give him a kind of homage because he had an exhibition. And he's one of the persons that is always talking about what is the life of an artwork in the depot. So he's very much attached to the authenticity of the objects and how people can care for it also after his time. And if you look through this window, you see one of the screens, which I will come to talk about later. This is a screen that gives information about what happens in the window that you see too. Next, please. There's a lot of inspiration. Next, please. But not all known in 2004 already. Yeah? So Mr. John Soane, next, please. He was a classical architect in London, and he found out that his students, so London looks like a neoclassical city because of Mr. Soane. And he was with his students always traveling through Northern Europe, he was going to Greece, to North Africa, to Rome. Next, please. And he liked a lot to make molds, and sometimes I think also he took some originals. That's a lesser nice story to teach his students. And this was his home. Next, please. So students were really in the middle of classical architecture, and he did something very nice as well. I mean, I can really become very happy when I see this. When you enter this, maybe some people in the audience know Mr. Soane's home in the middle of London. It's a museum, one of the first museums. If you enter this room, the guard will ask you, would you like the Hogarth collection? Would you like to see it? Hogarth collection. So you see one wall, which has about 8 works. And then he starts to open, next please, he starts to open the wall. And then you get 3 layers of Hogarth. And even if you look into the next room, you see Hogarth. And so he was buying more than he could show. Wow, that's the moment that a collector is really born. And but he also had the originality to find a system to take care of the Hogarth set. When you close the cupboard, it's dark. You can look at it in a very thorough way. It's wonderful. It stimulates your curiosity if you come there. It's really like going back and going back each time. Next, please. Of course, Piranesi, even 2 generations before John Soane. This is the architect that stimulated Winnie Maas very much to make the stairways. Of course, Piranesi was so innovative as an architect that he had never won commission, but his drawings were stimulating architects until now. Next, please. Yeah, I mean, what to say? I mean, looking at it is believing what happened. Next, please. This is a great point in my development. I was in Sao Paulo in, I think, 92, so 10 years after opening the MASP in Sao Paulo. And Lina Bo, married with Mr. Bardi, made for the MASP this wonderful display. Next, please. In Sao Paulo, they do it with about 120 works. Next, please. We do it with 15 works in one of our galleries. We would like to keep it permanent like this. This is beautiful because you can see, one back, please. You can see the back parts. Yes, thank you. You can see the back parts of the painting. So you see the stickers, you see where they traveled. This is the Basquiat with the, so Basquiat gave all kinds of information. You can even see that the Basquiat is done like a tent. It's in fact flexible. It's not done with tape, but it's not really a technical, wonderful work. And next to it is a Jeroen Bos. It is as safe as well as wood can be. So it's beautiful, and people respond to this in a wonderful way. They really feel suddenly like, wow, this is material. I'm not looking at a picture. I'm looking at something which is done by a human being that made it as solid as he could, and he enjoyed doing this and that. What is a frame, etc. Please, next. So this is great. And this is something for, well, if you go to Italy, go to the work next, please, of Carlo Scarpa. Carlo Scarpa is an architect in the midst of the 20th century. He was building this palazzo in Palermo. the collection of this palazzo is not what you say wonderful or of a world standard, but he made the display with so much love, with so much colors, with so beautiful light. Next, please, that you start to look at each piece as if you could never leave the room. Even if you see here at the right hand side, if you see the caption on the wall, even that one is done with so much love and so much feeling that you get interested because of the care that you sense in the display. Next, please. It's about 20 rooms. In this room, if you enter, you see the altarpiece. You see a green kind of backdrop. It's beautiful. That could have been a sculpture or a painting. And the moment you start to move, you see that the backdrop is not part of the altarpiece, but it's on the wall. And if you come closer, you see that it's a kind of wooden part that is just done to give the altarpiece a wonderful presentation. You see the shape is the same as the shape of the concrete column. 20 rooms full of wonderful ideas to give heritage a special position in your eye and to give it the role that it had in the original state, but then done as a museum should do it. So it's full of plans and ideas. Each work of Carlos Capa for a museum has a world besides it. It's beautiful. Next, please. There's more. Please, the next. This is wonderful. Sana Architects for Louvre Lens in Metz. Next, please. Also this one, beautiful. Next, please. This is inspiration from our home ourselves. So Alex da Corte, an important artist from the USA, our curator, next please, Francesco Stocchi, was, like we all were, very happy when Le Miroir Vivant by René Magritte came into the collection. And he said, we should do a welcoming exhibition and we will invite Alex da Corte and I'll help him to do with the collection of the Boijmans a kind of welcoming party in which could you turn it one back, you see? Yeah, so here you see the painting that we bought, 1927, and the important part of the surrealism was, of course, the poetic part, and these paintings still refer to it. And next, please. And here you see in a room of 300 square meters, well, what do you see? You see the colors. Harold Seeman would have done it in the same way. There's even an exhibition of Harold Seeman with the same colors. You see a Duane Hansen, you see an Alex da Corte, you see a photo of a video artist from the Netherlands. You see in the middle, you see an installation by Krijn de Koning, which carries a work by Dali. You see a Helter Helter painting. That is, of course, Christopher Wool, Dan Flaven at the wall. It was a crazy combination. It was appropriation. It was giving a context to the collection that made the content different. And it was the most nice welcome party for René Magritte ever, I think. Not all artists were so convinced, but okay, that's another discussion. Next, please. And this really, yeah, you should look it up in the internet, Bas van Beek. So he is working and reworking with heritage. It could be Morris or the arts and crafts movement or the Wiener Werkstätte. Next, please. He likes a lot to reactivate design, but also art. What you see here is 3 sculptures done for aquariums. Now, this is a very small model of the UFO that was done by Matti Suuronen in the 70s. It was his plan. This is a small building that you could buy in those years and go with it with a helicopter to a mountain and live there. And he likes a lot to reactivate works of other artists. I don't know who his lawyer is, but he does it. And this is his work in a show that we mounted. COVID was annoying, of course, so we made a drive-through exhibition in one of the biggest halls available in Rotterdam. And you see here, under the point of the pyramid, you see a stack of aquariums carrying such works. He did also other works from the collection, as a new, a new designed artwork. Next, please. Yeah, next, please. Again, we are back in the depot. Next, please. Work by Iris van Herpen. And here you see that this big window is lit. You see a Jeff Wall. You see, it's very nice to see artworks from all sides. It's the three-dimensional view and the movement of the building is very interesting. It happens really when you walk there that you start to get interested in everything that you see that happens. It's an organism. It's yelling. It's very convincing. Next, please. Well, the great opening. This was not allowed, but he is the King of the Netherlands. And the good news was that during the opening, he appeared to have no vertigo. And so, I mean, you always look after the special talents of a king, and he had no vertigo. So that was very nice. And he said hello to Eva, Rodin's Eva, of course. Next, please. Well, some of the figures that we did not know about it, but this opening with the king was even with a second campaign, even that was 3.6 billion people who followed it. And since the opening, we have 950 people per day. That's also the maximum. We do not do anything for publicity at this moment, but this is just what we can have. And we do not do tour operators, and all people that come still come because they have seen this publicity campaign. So they like it a lot. And just, you heard the quotation of the Times. We have at this moment over 125 colleagues from all kinds of nations and countries and cities and museums that came to see what we did and to think about what is in it for us. And so there's not really a copy being made, maybe one in Korea, but in another kind of architecture. But it's very interesting that the Pompidou, the V&A, the Metropolitan, the National Gallery in Washington, all neighbors from Germany and from Belgium, they all visited the museum with teams to see what has happened in Rotterdam. Next, please. Next, please. Photo studio. Next, please. Oh, very nice. There's a kind of, yeah. Next, please. I wonder what this.
I don't know.
There's something very strange going on with the kind of drawing, but I like it. It's not. Yeah. It's not in the depot, but it's on the. Maybe the wheat transfer was. You see here the rooms of the conservators. 800 square meters. Wonderful that we have this space now. We had nothing. Next, please. Next, please. Oh, strange. This is a lady interested in what they are doing. You can have, and you can ask for special tours that go about, that handle about conservation, but also, next, please. There is, if there's nobody to tell you, there's always a screen, English and Dutch, in which you find the most active information about what happens in the rooms. This is just one of the tools that we developed. Of course, if you go into the compartments, about 1/3 of the people have a guided tour. You can ask also questions. The system is even made to have online video from the compartment where the restoration is taking place. So, for instance, if a conservator would like to use a webcam, we can show that on the screens. And so you come very close to the point that the conservator is active. Next, please. You can lit each window. Next, please. Next, please. It tells itself. Next, please. One of the things that we have in the collection is wonderful installations. So we had, of course, we had a Daniel Buren exhibition. We bought the installation. We had Oliver Eliasson we have Joseph Beuys, Kusama, and Estoneto. And we recently also bought this Paul McCarthy. We bought it on the secondary market. It is a kind of work that, fits very well in the collection. The cabin that you see moves along the rail. It's a kind of, Hollywood scene. And in the cabin, there's a couple of cowboys who are annoyed and who amuse themselves in a very particular way. I'm sorry if these the next photos are a little obscene. Next, please. But you see here still the court. People were invited to see the crates coming in. They enjoyed that we unpacked them. We were really puzzling with all the details. But next, please. Because what happened, we did not know, but all the machinery here had to be redone. It did not work. Here you see even some liquid that escapes. And what the four cowboys did as a play was not very certain until that we checked everything. And McCarthy helped us, of course, and we could find out what happened with this installation. We could reinstall it completely. We could make a logbook in which each item of the installation is now registered, so we can rebuild it as many times as necessary. We completely now know how the heritage can be kept. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please. If you are, and one back, please. If you are looking into one of the vitrines or you are looking through the window, we have developed a special app, a Depot app. Next, please. So what you can download in the Apple Store is this Depot app. There's everywhere a QR code. And if you make a photo of the QR code, you get information about all the pieces in your view. Next, please. And so you can see here this woman is doing it, so you can really enjoy what you see. And the system of education is that all items are constantly redone. And so if anything changes, the QR code is working. And also related to the website of the museum that has now 51,000 items completely covered. And so it's a kind of system in which also the choices of the audience leads us to what we should do and how we should continue with filling the system. It is a very nice, very easy app, and we received in 22 the Webby Award, which makes sure that the professional world says that it's a very good solution to do such things. Next, please. Just to show you that if you go with a guided tour, you come into compartments where crates are open, so you can enjoy pieces. Next, please. This is a nice photo. I just don't understand why these children do not wear white jackets, because that is an obligation if you go in. But they're looking at a very nice big Dali. Next, please. Curator telling about one of his favorite works. They have the coats. Next, please. This is one of my colleagues. We have about 25 full-time equivalents in the depot. And we also develop new devices. So you see her proudly showing one of the new systems that we could develop. Of course, if the racks are tailor-made, the devices to go up to 6 meters should be tailor-made as well, because you have all kinds of measurements. But such machines can be made as you like to. And here you see how many people really show their jobs. Of course, they can be recognized because they have a uniform or they have a jacket. That's working space, which is important. But we also have, and that is quite wonderful, we have 400 museums in the Netherlands. So many jobs behind the screens. We show the jobs, and we have a relation with 2 schools, 2 academies in Rotterdam, to show apprentices, young people, what they could do if they decide to work in a museum. So for a city as Rotterdam, with many languages and many people who are first in the country with their family, we show that being a technician for a museum or being an art handler could be a very nice future. And it helps. The moment that we took the apprentices for the first class in the depot, our colleagues started to phone that they would like to give them a job. So we need these people, and it's really also a new generation that comes into the museum world. Next, please. Yeah, a wonderful place. So the fashion designer from Rotterdam that had a show said, "Can I come with my 300 guests?" We thought about this quite long, but in the end we thought, well, we can handle it, and nothing went wrong, and it was a great show, and he's doing well with his models. Next, please. Also a commission. Next, please. So the restaurant is really nice. I mean, yeah, I'm very proud that we could do this. And this is also a restaurant with a chef. So it is open until 11 p.m. Next, please. Rooftop garden is really a garden. The trees are really growing at this moment. Next, please. This is the Saturday morning. Next, please. And this, next, please, is a wonderful kind of extra. The windy city of Rotterdam, with all these strange events in its past, that we were bombed in the Second World War. So the entire center of Rotterdam was taken away on the 10th of May, 1940. The city is still recovering. Doing such an artwork in the middle part of the city is important, because people gather there, they go there with a dog, they like to be there. The youth of Rotterdam is assembling there every evening, and so it's a very nice extra. So the treasury, where we are proud to show people the collection, their collection. We all say it's not ours, it's our privilege to look after it, but here people see that in this treasury we take care of a very important pile of artwork. And sometimes they do not understand it exactly, but they see that the love that you bring into the collection care, that is important. Next, please. Next, please. And next, please. Money-wise, very interesting, but not for all figures. So we made this model work. We had a mortgage, and we found 42 million as donations. And the most important remark is that the depot at this moment earns money that we can invest in conservation. So depots and also taking care of heritage is always a bleeder. It's you earn money with your audience that comes for exhibitions. At this moment, we earn money by showing how we care for the collection. And that is also invested in the future of the collection. I don't know if it will continue, but at this moment, it goes very well. Next, please. This is Ina Klaassen. She was also involved, of course, in building the depot. And she continues her job, and she is also responsible for the next steps in the refurbishment of the museum. It's taking very long, but it's not a thing the museum is doing. The museum is owned by the municipality, and they should take their responsibility. I can tell you a lot about it, but that would be another lecture. Next, please. Sonia Herman-Dals, who did this beautiful documentary. Next, please. And this is, again, my presumption. So let's give the answers. Is it crazy to show just 7%? Yes, that's crazy. Does transparency work? I think so. Does connoisseurship start with getting your curiosity out? It does. Is all art contemporary? Absolutely, because we take care of it and we can revive the art as much as necessary. Next, please. Thank you. "51 minutes.
That's good. That's good. Thank you very much for this fantastic presentation. Nous vous invitons à poser vos questions en français ou en anglais. Vous pouvez écrire vos questions dans l'espace de discussion ou demander la parole en activant votre petite main qui se trouve sur un petit bouton en bas de votre écran. Alors, we invite you to ask your question in French or English. You can write your question in the chat or click the raise hand button in one of the icons at the bottom of the screen. So I don't see everybody. So is there a question in the chat?
Not yet.
Not yet. So, of course, I have a question for you. During your presentation, I had a question in my mind all the way through.
Please.
How do you see the depot? Do you see the depot as a collection display, or do you see the depot as a storage place? Because it seems to me that the architecture transformed the storage place into a collection display. So I would like to have you comment on this kind of, transformation of the space of the collection.
So I see it, in fact, as a dynamic place. I see it as a place that lives and that gives you information. And so if you see a person fishing in a pond, there's also very often another person that looks at him or her. And people very much like to be in an environment where things happen and where things are done in the way it should be done. But it's very strange, but I see it much more as an atmosphere that makes you curious and that gives you a reason to be there and to feel it as a place you should be. And I do not care so much about the typology, but many of the colleagues see it as a big twist, a big change in how museums could be. But I don't consider it a museum. I consider it like a library of objects. And that is a combination that does not exist. But if I look in a library for a book, I leave the library with 3 books that I do not know. And that's the way the storage could work too. So you come to see your favorite artwork, and before you get there, you fell in love with 3 other works that you would like the next time, etc., etc. And so it's very much about the visual part of enjoying heritage.
Thank you very much. I think we have a hand raised here, a question. Would you like to ask your question?
Marie,
Hi. Is it me or you?
No, go ahead. It's fine.
I didn't see if there was an order in the questions. I'm sorry. Thank you for the presentation. Just quick question. To me, there seems to be a difference between the depot, the architecture, it's funky. People go there to have fun. There's yoga, restaurant. People are younger, it seems, innovative, as opposed to the museum. That seems to be more maybe conservative, older works. It's more serious. It's more quiet. So I'm just wondering, did you see a difference in the type of visitors? Did you analyze the visitors? Like what kind of visitors would you have in the depot versus in the museum?
Yeah. So why would a museum be dull? Why would a museum be visited by people above 60? Why would knowledge be something to avoid? Why can't a visit to heritage be playful? And so the museum is for me exactly the same as a depot. And I showed, of course, the yoga. I mean, I don't know how many courses there will be, but I show it to give you an impression of the social and also the optimistic part of the city. You need to live with heritage. Otherwise, it will sink into oblivion, and we will even forget ourselves as museums how important it is. So you do not need separation. You need a kind of combination that is also fruitful, and it gives you also a new identity, or that improves your identity. So working with 7 parties, with collectors, that we found 7 parties that work with us, makes the depot enormously lively. People know what happens there. People know the program. So I think it's not a difference. It should be everywhere the same. You should live with your exhibitions and with your visual arts and with the things that that you remember about it.
Thank you.
We have some questions in the chat.
Yeah.
First of all, we have Gabriela Sanchez. Do you want to ask your question personally, or? I don't know where she is.
François, do you have a question?
I do have a question. Sjarel, I wanted to start by thanking you warmly for this wonderful lecture, and of course for this great project, really impressive project. One of the things we discussed when we had the small chat before the talk was the process through which the Depot accommodates private collectors to bring their collections into the Depot and to work with the teams and so on. And I was just curious to see if you could unpack that for us. You used that term, I remember, which I loved, which was you were saying the Depot is almost like a hotel for collections. And I was like, so my first question is pretty straightforward. Can anybody check in? How does it,
Yeah.
do you have a longer
So
perspective?
the collectors that we talk to, of course, were also puzzled, because it's very nice to have a private collection and to have a home that is big enough and safe enough to care for it. But the moment they ask us what kind of privilege do we have if this happens, we tell them this is a hotel for your collection and you are welcome because you are the owner. But what is very nice is that the Depot has more messages. And one of the messages is that being a collector is a profession in itself, and there is also a habit, a hobby, a necessity that is quite human and quite normal, though it can accelerate. And that is, of course, wonderful. And if you remember the figure of 1,750 donators, you see that it is very obvious that a museum, with all its knowledge, can take care of heritage, and very, very often. And so when I did a lecture in many cases, and you can talk an hour, and afterwards there's always coming 2 or 3 people to the desk and they ask you, oh, wonderful lecture, great. I have at home this drawing that is so yellowish. Do you know what happens? Can you send over a conservator? And so even the smallest knowledge about what to do to keep an artwork in a good shape is not present in the audience. And we know all about it. We have our protocols and we talk about it in the ICOM, etc. But most of the heritage is luckily is not in a museum or not in a collection. And people do not know how to work with it. And so what is this? So what I like a lot about this neighbors that we now have is that they feel like being part of the museum, that they could decide to donate works to the museum, but we never ask, and we never tell them that it could happen. But we show them what a professional standard of dealing with heritage is. And they help us in a certain way also to pay for the building, because they pay rent. And this is also very obvious. I hope that the collection of the museum could be, this is the tool to do it, to de-access works. So this is the first time that we see everything, that is not in a computer, not on a photo, but we have all the real things in our surrounding. This is the moment that we can decide which works should go into the future, right? What belongs into our Ark of Noah. And that's one thing. But the other thing is, and that is also a possibility, if the collection would grow, if my successors find new directions or new installations to buy, we would need more space. and at the moment that these compartments would be empty again, for which reason I hope they will all stay, but we can have more space to collect. And so we, in fact, made a building, a jacket that is bigger than at this moment our body needs. And so there's many reasons to do such collaborations, and it gives you also more information. So the conservators, there's also private conservators working in the depot, they can have a lot of work and information that we share. And so, of course, it's not the same. So if you have a piece in the depot, it's not a long-term loan by the museum. So that's where we make a border. But it's, of course, something which is very obvious. So the collectors are so close. Why wouldn't they come one step closer? And that's, I mean, I thought maybe it's a good plan, and maybe anyone would be interested. And now they are all taken.
This hasn't been done before. Are there any other examples? No. Okay.
No.
There's some question in the chat. So I'm going to read the question from Gabriela Sanchez. Thank you very much. You think that this accessibility of the public transform it, I suppose, the collection in a certain way into a producer of meaning to the work themselves?
Well, what happens is that so we have in the museum 3,000 places on the wall and in vitrines, 3,000, which is about 2% of the collection. So, I mean, terrible. What happens now is that people, they discover works that they did not know about, or they return to works that they have seen 30 years ago in a show and that were bought. And so the audience gets a kind of influence, which is very interesting. You even can ask, if you want to see a certain work, you can ask the guide to go there. And the guide can even, if he knows, or if she knows before, prepare to give a certain work a better light, to give it a kind of extra position in the tour. And so the depot is much more interactive than the museum. And if you think about what the museum has as extra quality now, because we have all the works in our surrounding, we can be with the work in 3 minutes if necessary. That was 30 days. It took us longer to have a loan from the own museum than a loan from Paris or New York. And now everything is like a library of objects in our surrounding, and we can make the comparison. And so I think that, I mean, I love the internet and it's all wonderful to see all the information, but having the real works of art so close is for all people that work with heritage, even if you are a visitor, a great advantage. You can't do without. I don't know how we did it.
Thank you. So we have another question by Barbara Fisher. Barbara, would you like to ask?
Hey, Barbara, how are you?
Barbara, would you like to ask your question? Just turn on your microphone. Oh, just turn on your microphone, Barbara.
Sorry, I thought I'd unclicked it. So great to see you.
How are you?
Good. Congratulations. What an amazing project. And there's a lot to inspire future thinking about their collections. The question I had has a little bit to do with the sort of question of the expansive model, the idea of getting bigger and bigger, which museums normally have done to compensate for collections that can't be shown. But what are the limits of this model ultimately? And even do you see this potentially something that will hit the depot as well, that, you've just reached the limit of what you bring in, and will there come a point where what will be the next step? Do we need an aggregational principle? Do we have to grow? And
So, you know, it's a very interesting question. Thank you. So, I mean, you saw some examples from the 19th century. I talk about guided tours, and I talk about John Soane. What was the advantage of the 19th century? I mean, there were some, probably, but it's not only a step forward, but it's also a step back. We also look into methods that have been proved and that are not beaten by any new system or nothing. So that is very important. I think that we also have an advantage because we are a world's first. So we have this enormous publicity, and we have a closed museum. So people tend to go now to the depot and not to the museum. So you have to think about all these things as well. I would say that a personal treatment of audience in all hours that you are in a museum or that you face a collection is very important. And that is not only the cognitive part, so the intellectual part, but it's also, what about a crate? And why don't we talk about crates? Why don't we talk about conservation processes? Why don't we talk about the Van Gogh that we discovered under the Van Gogh that people look at? Because that is a kind of knowledge that would make the art world a lot richer and the conversation a lot better. And so we can all talk about the last rugby match and the last soccer match, and we know the players, but how many artists from the collection are known? Not so many. So we should find out something, and even for a city that is changing enormously. We have so many young people in Rotterdam. If we do not change our behavior as a museum, they will not understand, they will not understand in 2 generations why they have a museum. And so it's really a very Western thing to collect worthwhile artifacts. Mm-hmm. But the other part is that if you show your passion, and if you show that you care, and if you take responsibility, and if you keep saying it's not our collection, it's yours, you are the inhabitants of Rotterdam, it's your heritage, it was donated to you, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so I think the limits are not clear, and I think that many variations are possible. And the city of Cologne was also one of the guests, and they have a kind of very strange, perhaps in Germany, it's a very strange kind of question they had. They said, well, Mr. X, nice that you did this, but we have a problem in the city. Berlin is getting more important. We do not find any youth in our museum. People get older and they still like it, but there's no new generation coming in. So what is wrong? What is happening? And at that moment, I said to them, so what do all people do? They said, so shall we build a depot to change this? No, I mean, no, that's not the way. But if you think about a city like Cologne, there's a lot of applied arts, a lot of people who collect smaller things. The moment that you would make a center for heritage in combination with clubs that know about lace and silk and gather, so the ceramics party, people that can weld, people that can. So if you go to what crafts mean, and crafts is one of the most famous hobbies in the world still, in all cultures, you would suddenly come into a kind of level where people again find a kind of reason to be. And so you can think about such systems next to what a museum is doing. Museum is unique. You get wonderful surprises and great impressions, but the form that we allow us to present could be innovative as well. And that could be a depot, but could be a depot with another kind of combination. And that world is very rich, though it takes some years to convince people that we should develop in that direction.
That's very interesting. I mean, in a sense, you're suggesting that maybe museums, instead of aspiring to a more encyclopedic model, to become more specialized even. So the depot may not be just the depot for an encyclopedic, continuously expanding proposition of a museum, but rather one that locally is inspiring and then perhaps aggregates energy to it rather than...
Yes, and I would also like to think about museums as a station in between and not the end of heritage. And so the moment that we would find all people that love Dali, or that love lace, or that love copperwork, we can also return parts of the collection to collectors, because there's no need to be responsible as a museum. We show what is important, and at the moment that we made it clear and people feel responsible, you can continue with new things. And why would we be the end of heritage? I don't think that is necessary, and I'm sure that it's not possible. We would turn, like Ulebeck says, into a museum ourselves. Even the museums would become a museum. We should avoid it.
Very interesting. Great. Thanks. Amazing.
Thank you. So we have a question from Andrea Kuschenbach. Andrea, would you like to, from the Musée d'Art Contemporain, would you like to turn on your microphone and ask your question?
Yeah, hi. I'm head of collections at the Muséum d'Art Contemporain. So I'm very interested in if you have anything to add to the collection movement, what the complexity of the collection movement, main challenges, your experience, timing, timeline, things like that.
Yeah, well, that's a profession in moving a depot. Huh? So we had a special colleague that has been doing it in several other jobs as well. So yeah, Sjoerd Vos is his name. He had an enormous experience. He was wonderful to have in the team, and he could look at a depot and change it into vans. So he could pack works without any protocol and without any damage. So you saw these 8 wooden sculptures in a crate. It would have taken 8 crates and 6 hours per crate to pack them. And he said, no, we do it like this, and we are doing it ourselves, and it's not the kind of, etc. So this is, if you start to move, you really need somebody who is experienced in it, and it will save you a lot of time and a lot of money. And we had no damage at all. So 151,000 pieces. One piece was found damaged in the depot. We didn't know it was there was a kind of accident that was not reported. And so it's beautiful, and it's the first step in getting to know your collection thoroughly. And I can give you the phone number of Sjoerd Vos, and you should hire him immediately.
Yes, we're very interested.
Because it's a specialist.
We'll follow up on this meeting. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So we have another question in the chat. Marie-Pierre Touchette, would you like to show up and ask your question, or you prefer me to read it?
Yes, sure, no problem. First, thank you very much for your presentation. It's absolutely amazing. I was wondering, my question kind of follow up with the one of Barbara's. What is now the percentage of your collection that is accessible to public? You were talking about 7%. How do you manage what is accessible and what is not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so 7% was, and even less, was in the museum, where we have limited space in 60 rooms, and you do exhibitions as well, of course. So if you would now ask what kind of square meters in the depot are accessible, everything is accessible, with one percentage as exception. That's the security room, so that we don't allow people to get in there. There we have some secrets about how we take care of the security. If you come into a depot with closed crates, you have a lot of information on stickers, and sometimes there's a kind of space that you can see the artwork. But of course, that is not really an artwork. So there's a kind of limit to it. But I think at this moment you have in the depot maybe 10,000 works that you can have a look at. And the racks, the paintings, is the most simple, and that is obvious. During a tour, you can ask for a keyfer, and then this keyfer is shown to you. But the moment you start to prepare yourself, if you make use of the library of objects, you can see 600 movies. We have devices, they're open, 3 cabins, one for 13 people, and 2 solo boxes, where you can, with your fingers, find, like a jukebox, every movie that was bought for the collection. So everything by Marcel Broodhaars and everything by Bruce Nauman, and you can continue. And that is a great device. And so the moment that you start to come and to learn, you get more access. And so you can find your way, and all questions are welcome, and all rooms can be closed for you to be 3 hours with a painting, and etc. And so we hope that the tool will be recognized as a tool and not as a church with a disposition that is solid and clear.
Okay, so it really depends on what the visitor is interested into. So yeah. Everyone has a different visit, as I understand.
Yeah, so the moment you are more specialized, your visit gets more special. But if you just come because you are curious, you can decide at the door, or if you make a reservation, you can decide to go by yourself or with your friends, and then you have a great kind of experience with all the floors and all the QR codes, etc. If you decide to go with a tour, you come into a group of max 11 people with a guard and the guide. You can show in advance what you're interested in, or they take you in a general tour, and then you get a kind of impression what the depot is about and how we do the things. And it's just a very funny walk through an environment that you will have never seen. But the moment you know more, you experience more and you enjoy more. It's very strange.
That's really innovative. Thank you very much.
Mm.
So I think I'll ask the next question, trying to put together more questions that are in the chat. How did Depot change the museum practices, or change the way people are working into the museum? For example, being watched when you're doing a restoration of the work, or being watched when you are packing for the transportation of the work.
Yeah, I can tell you a very nice experience. So I was once giving a tour. I've been with the depot about 1 year during the opening, and then I said, so I quit. Thank you for all the years that I could work. One time I was with a group at a sideboard, and suddenly 2 art handlers with a dog on wheels came along with a work by, I think it was Bosboom, an interior of a church, and people they were in shock. They went against the wall and they looked at the artwork, and they had never been so close to an artwork, and they enjoyed it enormously because they thought that they had seen. Well, what did they see? They see what we think is very usual, and so that you are in the moment that something happens with heritage is very convincing. What is interesting too is that, of course, the 50% of our colleagues that were always working anonymous are now more or less the stars of the show. They did not all look forward to it. Some of them were really very, reluctant and even critical. But it changed within 2 days. And so we have many questions. We went, of course, to we had many meetings about it, and people said, yeah, I don't want to be filmed, I don't want to be on a photo. Well, we asked people not to make photos of colleagues, and that's also regulation. But now people are proud. They can show what they do. They can talk about what they can talk at home about what they do. It's the other part that when you are working in a mine, you can tell that you found coal. Now you're working in a depot, and people think, "Wow, you're doing a very valuable job." Mm-hmm. I was giving a tour to 5 doctors of the hospital nearby. They were in the board, and we were going along the conservation rooms. And at a certain moment, one of the conservators, she was in a white jacket. She grasped the Van Gogh and looked at it in the light, and they were in shock. They thought, but she touches the Van Gogh. That's impossible. Why does she do it? And I said to them, you know, a conservator has a scientific background of 6 years. They have to practice 6 years more. They should be specialized in chemistry. They cannot do this unless they are experienced for 20 years. And then they have a lot of protocols to follow. Well, how long does it take to be a heart chirurg? And then they said, okay, we understand. And so they do not know how valuable the knowledge is of persons, of people, or people that take care of art. If you see an art handler, they have the energy to walk and to move on a 30% level of what we are used to. At the moment you touch an artwork, everything is in slow motion. It's like a choreography of a ballet. It's very impressive, and it's usual. It's normal. It's what you do in a museum. So, yeah, the colleagues are very proud. People are very, very excited about what they see. They know now what they pay taxes for, to say it in a Dutch way too. And so it's more or less a kind of, yeah, if I could have thought about all this in advance, I would not have believed myself. But now I think it's obvious that it's very good to show what you do. It's transparency.
Thank you. Melanie, I think you're gonna have the last question if you want to.
It's up to you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, but actually I was sure that you were asking my question because it was really close to your question. So maybe we had the same thought, but you already answered it. It was about how the opening of the work changes the professional, the way they see their work. So it was So the part of the museum in this question is that we became much more specialized in the collection. Mm-hmm. And so even for me as a director, knowing about, well, good guess, maybe I know 8,000 or 10,000 of the works by heart. And after 18 years, I'm sorry, that's not everything, but the moment that you have all these works together, and we made about 5 exhibitions for colleagues in the Netherlands and everywhere. We could do it from the racks. We could do it with all the impressionists together. We could do it with works that we did forget about and that we recognized. We even managed to find a work that was cleaned within a couple of days because it belonged very much to an exhibition that we wanted to make. So it's much more hands-on and much more in the eye. And it's not very abstract anymore, the work. We were always doing things that we knew or that we remembered or that we saw if there was a picture on a computer. And now suddenly everything is there. And so the quality of our work improves in a practical way.
Thank you very much.
I'm now gone, of course, so I hope I'm not speculating about my former colleagues, but I think they do well.
maybe one last question from the chat. I don't remember who asked this question about the how do you control the light that comes into the building and into the storage.
Important. So all the compartments are dark, without that in all museums the same. Only the conservators have daylight, and they can use it as much as they like because they should. But everything is dark unless it is lit. The atrium has light from above. That's of course with all kinds of screens without UV, etc. And on the top floors, we only show works made of glass, made of ceramics that can stand the light. And if light is getting too much, we change the work. So we keep the protocol that a work on paper can only be shown 3 months per 3 years, etc. And it's also a good reason to change, because otherwise it would be always the same static view. And keeping the light regulations in your mind means also that you have to rethink all dispositions and all combinations and ensembles. But of course, there was a lot of doubt if nearby people would be giving too much moist or too much dust. And in the depot, we made the ventilation like this. So like this. So the humidity and the air goes up, which means that all the climatized air moves to the top, to the restaurant, and goes outside. And that means that even if you open the door of a vault to let in a group, or even if you keep it open, the stability of the compartment is not touched at all. We thought we can open doors just slightly. We made a test, and even if we open everything, the machines are so strong and the conditions are so good that you don't notice. And so it's we hoped that this would be possible, and it is possible. It's a quite sustainable building too. The Danish model, I don't know if you are acquainted to this, but the Danish model means that you make the static quality of the building as high as possible, and so that you don't need too much energy to cool it down or to make a ventilation system, etc. And the concrete talents of the building are very, very thorough. So you saw it in the first photos. The shell underneath is as thick as a bridge, and it's all concrete. And so the warm days, you hardly notice it. It's a stable building. Yeah.
Thank you. Le temps passe, on voit l'heure, on voit le ciel changer derrière toi, Sjarel. We can see the light change in your background.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would like to thank you so much, Sjarel and François, pour ce merveilleux moment passé ensemble. Avant de vous quitter, j'aimerais juste vous rappeler quelques activités de CIECO qui s'en viennent rapidement. Donc, le colloque Qu'est-ce qu'une collection aujourd'hui qui aura lieu du 21 au 24 mars en simultané à l'Université de Montréal et à l'École du Louvre à Paris. La journée d'études ainsi que la journée d'études l'archive visuelle de l'exposition de collection, statuts et usages qui aura lieu le 31 mars au Musée national des beaux-arts du Québec. Vous pourrez également assister à ces activités à distance. Si vous êtes à Paris, vous pouvez aller à l'École du Louvre. Si vous êtes à Montréal, vous pouvez y assister à partir de l'Université de Montréal. Si vous souhaitez aller à Québec, il reste encore des places sur l'autobus. Dépêchez-vous de faire votre réservation. Un autobus partira de Montréal. François, du côté du Musée d'art contemporain, veux-tu que je fasse les annonces ou je te passe le micro? Oui?
Va de l'avant, c'est OK, Marie, je t'ai envoyé les infos, tu peux y aller.
Oui, OK. Alors, du côté du Musée d'art contemporain, l'exposition Nelson Henriques se poursuit jusqu'au 9 avril. L'artiste donnera une conférence au Centre canadien d'architecture le 30 mars à 18h. L'entrée est gratuite. Il y aura aussi le concert du percussionniste Stewart Jackson dans les salles d'exposition le 5 avril à 18h. Donc, c'était un plaisir, François, de te retrouver et cette heureuse collaboration avec le Musée d'art contemporain qui nous a permis d'accueillir Sjarel Ex. Merci énormément. C'est un projet vraiment très inspirant. Et j'imagine qu'on aura de cesse d'en parler dans nos travaux de recherche à CIECO et certainement aussi dans les musées. Donc, je remercie tout le monde pour votre participation et je vous souhaite une belle suite de semaine.
Thank you, Sjarel, for this very inspiring moment. I'm sure many of us are looking forward to visiting in Rotterdam, and so see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you for having me, and lots of success with your developments in Montreal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Au revoir tout le monde. Merci.
Bye-bye.